Okay, so this is week 3, and we're going to be talking about the shepherds. And like I said last week, on Sunday, I'm only preaching in the 11:15 service. The 9 o'clock service is the lessons and carols. So we'll get the sermon up as quick as we can Sunday after church. But you'll have everything you need to lead the lesson, as you know, as best you can, leading up to it. So it's Luke 2, 8-20, and the shepherds are an interesting and unexpected group of people for the announcement of the birth of the Messiah to be given to. Like I said in my notes, except for a few famous shepherds like David and Moses, most shepherds in biblical times were sort of on the margins. They were outcasts, they were outsiders, they were almost always ritually unclean just because of the work that they did with sheep and all the things that go along with keeping them healthy and things like that. So they were, and they had to sleep outside, and they smelled like outdoors, and they smelled like sheep all the time. So they were, and they were nomadic. So if they had land, it wasn't enough to either feed their family, or they always had to have, they had to be, on the way going somewhere with their sheep. So they were lowly, rough, unclean, and there's a few places that I've read said that sometimes shepherds were even a little bit dangerous in that sometimes they were less than savory characters. So for Luke to include this announcement of the birth of the Messiah to the shepherds and to this particular group of people, not only makes Luke's gospel distinct in that presentation, because Matthew makes the presentation, or makes the annunciation to the Magi, which is totally different, and we'll get to that. That happens on Epiphany. Well, Sandy will talk about that. Not you, Sandy. Sandy heard. Yeah, you didn't know you were preaching for me? Anyway.
Oh, yeah, that'd be good. From a distance.
Right, yes. But it sets up, or actually continues the trajectory that Luke has been on of unexpected people receiving good news. So first of all, we have, Zechariah and Elizabeth, this couple who are barren. They receive the good news they're going to have a son. And then there's Mary, the virgin is going to conceive and bear the Messiah, and then the shepherds, and then it just kind of continues with John the Baptist in chapter 3, and then Jesus comes onto the scene in chapter 4, and then all throughout the Gospel of Luke, you see what's usually paraphrased as the least, the last, and the lost are the people who come to the forefront, and those are the people who get Jesus's attention. Those are the people who find their ways into starring roles, so to speak, in the gospel narrative. And so Luke's just starting off with this right here. So and there was, I read somewhere, I can't remember exactly where it was, but so the first question talks about if you were a lawyer and you were looking for a credible witness, what kind of person would you want? Well, one of the some of the backstory to that is that in some Jewish circles, shepherds were not allowed to be witnesses in trials or in court cases, so to speak, because they were considered shifty. They were considered, untrustworthy, and so they couldn't function as a witness in some places. But they would be, even if the scenario of chapter, or the first question, they wouldn't look like or sound like or be the person that you would want to be your star witness. They would be, sort of they probably, if anywhere, they would be a supporting witness. But Luke puts these shepherds right on the front stage, and they, like the text says, they make haste to Bethlehem, and they find Mary and Joseph and the child lying in the manger. They made known to the Holy Family what had been told to them. All who hear were amazed. And then the shepherds in verse 20 return, glorifying and praising God for all they had heard and seen, and it had been told to them. So they step into this moment and share what they know and become this witness to the birth of the Messiah, or the infancy of the Messiah. And we have them recorded in our scriptures. I'm going to spend a moment to talk about how Luke 2 opens with the sort of the catalog of who the big rulers were. Like, it says in those days, decree went out from Emperor Augustus. So there's Augustus in Rome, who's the emperor of the entire Roman Empire. And then there's Quirinius, the governor of Syria. And so there's the local guy who's the representative of Caesar there. So there's these two, major players, so to speak, who get upstaged by the shepherds. Yeah. So it's not the people that are high in status that get the news of Jesus' birth. It's these low status shepherds who get it, which is, it's just this one more, it's another in this stack of reversals that Luke will keep building on throughout his gospel. Let's see. Question 2 talks about verses 8 and 9, which is shepherds watching over their fields. An angel of the Lord stood before them. The glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. That idea of being terrified, it's this interesting little phrase in the original language. It's actually like it's fearingly fearful or something like that. It's this double appearance of the word we get for phobias. It's phobos. Let's see. Yeah. They were feared with they feared with great fear is the phrase. They feared with great fear. So, and it gets translated as terrified. But it's like dread and being terrified. So this is what you would expect in this moment when an angel appears. This is what happened all throughout Scripture. When an angel appears, or the Lord appears, there's fear, and often that immediately followed with "Do not be afraid," and that's what happens here too. I wonder if the shepherds thought even more so of being terrified because of their social status as being lowly, being outcasts, and being outsiders alike.
More than amazed.
Right.
What is happening here?
Right. And so if you capture that particular moment, then you go back to what Mary says when the angel appears to her, and she says, let's see, let me just verse 28, greetings, favored one. She was much perplexed, verse 29, by his words, and pondered what sort of greeting this might be. But then still, do not be afraid, for you have found favor with God. And then you go back further to Zechariah. Zechariah is also afraid when Gabriel shows up. So this terrified response is appropriate. This is what you're supposed to do when the holy presence of God shows up right in front of you, and especially in the way that each of these happen. It's this suddenly. It's right there in front of you or right next to you, kind of moment. And on a dark night, if they're in the middle of the night here, if the watch that they're keeping is the overnight watch, then all of a sudden it goes from pitch black to this bright presence, and then gets even brighter when all the others jump in 13 and 14. So all of a sudden it's like day, almost in this moment when the heavenly hosts are singing out glory to God in the highest heaven and peace among those whom he favors. So it's the transition from dark to light is sudden and terrifying. So there you go. So then question 3 is about the shepherds are up on their feet almost before the heavenly light dims, and they make preparations to head to Bethlehem. What's significant about that the shepherds are the first witnesses of Jesus's birth in Luke's gospel is that they are of low status. They are right. Yeah. I'm I think I'm working on my message right now. Let's see, where did I put that? Yeah, I talk about them being unexpected characters. They're generally looked down on. Let's see. Yeah. So it's again, it subverts. They're being the first ones to witness Jesus's birth. Subverts the way that things are supposed to work. That if you're going to have, if you're going to share good news, if you're going to think about how to get out the word of some kind of big announcement the fastest way possible to the most people possible, you go to somebody who has influence. I think I'm going to open with that. I think, hold on. I think it's here. Yeah. I'm going to ask the question. If you were going to write a story about the arrival of the most life-changing figure in the history of the world, who would you want to know about it first? A major media outlet, a celebrity, a local newspaper, or a virtual nobody? And the thing is that, in our instant one-click kind of communication in our world right now, the faster you can get your message out to the greatest number of people, the greater chance you have of it sticking. But that's not what God did. God goes to people who are on the outsides. He goes to nobodies, and to a little bitty family that had kept this secret for the last 9 months and just kind of like, okay, what are we going to do here? So they're the first, the shepherds are the witnesses to the birth. And so the theme recurs later in the book of Luke, and where those who are not supposed to be getting the inside track get the inside track, and I would encourage the folks in your group to think about where that comes up. You can think about like chapter 15, where the prodigal is there. The prodigal is not the one who's supposed to get, the goods, but he does. Let's see. Oh, you're frozen on me, Sandy. I don't know if it's me or not. Oh, lost you. Maybe she'll jump back in a second. There she is. Hey there.
What happened?
I don't know. All of a sudden, I was talking and I looked at, and you were concentrating intensely on
Yes.
writing something down, and then I was like, no, she's frozen.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. So yeah, that theme of subverting who's supposed to do what comes back. Question 4. Ask folks to read Genesis 37, 9 to 11, and then Luke 2, 17 to 19. So Genesis 37, this is right after Joseph has his 2 dreams where his family bows down to him, and he tells his brothers, and then he tells his dad, and his father ponders that in his heart and holds on to it. And then in Luke 2, 17 and 19, Mary responds, hey, you're back.
Well, it's so you just freeze, and then all of a sudden it goes back to scheduling, loading.
Interesting. Okay. I don't know if it's, let's see here.
Maybe it's because I have COVID and it's like acting up for that.
It's trying to jump across the internet and get me. Is that what
Yeah. Knows I really don't feel or look like I should be here.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Let's see. So question 4 is the comparison between Joseph Jacob pondering in his heart what Joseph has shared, and then Mary pondering in her heart what the shepherds have done. And so the question's about how is our heart softened over the course of time when we treasure these words and ponder them, and asking about what happens. So eventually, at least in Genesis, Jacob is ultimately saddened that, doing it again, ultimately saddened that that Joseph is gone, and then goes to Egypt when he finds himself there. All right, I don't know what's happening.
Up scheduling made easy. Comes up loading. You just freeze and then.
Goodness. All right. Well, if that keeps happening, I'll just keep talking, and it's recording, or it was. No, it's not. Oh, no, it is. Okay. So.
Catch it later.
Yeah, you can catch the rest of it later. Yeah, it's still recording. Let's see. So for both Jacob and Mary, as they reflect and as they ponder things, they understand things better. We don't see Mary understanding things better till towards the end of the Gospels, but Jacob, we see him understanding things better when the brothers come back and they're like, your son is alive and he's called for you, and so they go. All right. Question 5, the unlikely evangelists, i.e. the shepherds, return glorifying, praising God for all they had seen and heard, verse 20. And so question is, when have you seen someone testify to the power of God in their life for whom they thought there would be no way that God would use someone like them? And so that's really a question about how people have seen God make a way when it felt like there was no way, and help testify to the good news. Let's see. And then the last question is about the greatest insight of the week. And I'll wait for the pop back. All right. Well, sorry I lost you, Sandy. I'll just finish up a little bit left. So, so when we get done with shepherds, then next week will be Joseph and the unspoken love of a father, because Joseph never speaks a word in the Gospel of Matthew. So we'll be looking at Matthew 1:18 to 25, and that'll be back at both services on the 20th. And then Christmas Eve will be the readings for Mary. So you'll notice on the week 4 sheet, there's a reading plan for Christmas Eve here. So it says here's the text to read from the 21st through the 24th. And so anyway, and then the schedule changed a little bit since I wrote that, but then we will have Christmas Eve. And Christmas Eve is in person at 3, 5, and 7, with 5 being a contemporary service. And then we have online options available at 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11. 3, 9, and 11 are all pre-recorded. 5 and 7 will be a live stream from the sanctuary. And if you or your folks are going to worship online with us, we'll have candles available to pick up on the 20th, 21st, and 22nd here at the church. And let's see, and reservations, at least for the 7 o'clock service in person, are going fast. So if you've got folks that want to do that one, they need to get in quickly. Otherwise, they can come at 3 or 5. Or watch online. So anyway, I appreciate all of you. I appreciate what you do for our church and the ways in which you lead your groups. And I pray that if you do have any questions or if you need any further assistance, that you reach out and we will get you the information that you need. And I look forward to seeing you, or at least participating in worship with you this weekend online. And Sandy and Don, we're praying for you and for Pamela and Bud and the kiddos and your whole family. So we're grateful for what y'all do and how you serve, and we're sorry that you're not feeling well. To the rest of you, thank you so much for what you do and for who you are and for allowing God to use you in this way. So blessings, have a great week, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks. Bye.